Well, my name is Chuck Beard, and welcome to the first ever East Side Storytellin. For the next for the next hour, we're going to have a great book reading, amazing musical performance, and casual conversation about creativity between authors, musicians, and me. Without further ado, so we have this time constraint of an hour, I will go ahead and introduce the author of tonight. I opened the bookstore about 2 months ago, East Side Story, and this particular author came in with her book, probably 4 or 5 in her hand, and immediately before saying her name said, "This will be the most Nashville book in your store, hands down." So I was very intrigued from the beginning. She said, again, without saying her name, I wrote this. I'm obviously from Nashville, and the story is a setting within the flood of 2010. The art on the front cover was done by Bryce McLeod, an artist here in Nashville, and it was printed here in Nashville. So I said, let's put it right here on the shelf. And ever since then, we've been selling out. So without further ado, this is Ann Shayne and Bowling Avenue.
I want to thank y'all for coming tonight. Chuck, thank you so much for hosting this. This is an amazing event for Nashville. I love the idea of music and words coming together, and I love the fact that you all came out on election night. Completely nonpartisan evening. I'd just like to point that out. Chuck is right about this book. It's definitely a Nashville book. I wrote it in Nashville. I grew up in Nashville. It's a story about a woman who comes back to Nashville after thinking that she would never come back to Nashville. And I don't know if any of you all have had that experience, but I think it's more and more common that people leave the place they grew up and think in this modern age that it's an easy thing not to have to come back, that you can kind of move on and reinvent yourself. For this young woman, whose name is Delia Ballinger, she pretty much decides that Chicago is where she wants to be. But as the book opens, she's had to come back to Nashville to do a really sad bit of business, which is to sell her sister's house that her sister has left to her. Her sister has died unexpectedly and tragically. I guess there are not that many happy deaths, really, but she has to come back to town and do this thing that she has no idea how to do. She is a travel agent who doesn't really travel. She never leaves her apartment where she does her work. So she's a total introvert and kind of a homebody, and thrown into a situation where she's going to have to make the best of a real estate transaction that she has no idea how to do. Once she gets back to town, much happens, and I'm not going to even begin to try to tell you what happens, but I did want to read to you one of her early experiences in the book in trying to find a buyer for this luxurious, fabulous West Nashville house that she can't even understand how her sister could maintain. So here we go. Coming back from a trip to the grocery store, I discover an incandescent red pickup truck in the driveway. It's not a normal pickup truck. It has at least 2 feet of lift on it, a little ladder leading up the driver's door, and a decal across the back window that mystifyingly says, "Love Yard" in capital Gothic letters. Just a huge amount of effort put into this ride, brand new and as shiny as a slot machine. A man comes around the corner of the house. He appears inflated, with a shaved head and a long beard that looks wistfully Hasidic, eyes sunk into his sunburned face like raisins in a bun. He's not all that tall, but he is wide. I mean, scary as hell to see in my yard. Somewhere behind him, a high voice in a foreign accent yells, "Ethan, where the heck are you?" "I'm right here, sugar," he yells back blandly in a flat, nicotine-stained country boy accent. The high voice appears, and I have to avert my eyes in embarrassment at the bounteous plenitude of her. A Partonian quantity of tangled gold hair and a small face somewhere in there, a spectacular amount of bosom, and a napkin of a dress. She's figured out how to be naked with clothes on. Well, hey, he says to me, tiptoeing through the grass in lurid cowboy boots that seem impossibly small. Between her bosom and his girth, I'm afraid somebody's going to tip over. This your house? He's chewing on something, idly. Sugar, he says, did you get your shoes unstuck? She is indeed barefoot, carrying a pair of clear plastic platforms. There's a stripper in my yard. We lack this house, Ethan says. I mishear him and think he said, we lack this house, which sounds so fancy. Oh, yeah. Sugar knocks the dirt and grass off her stilettos. This sets off a tremendous jangling of the bangles running all the way up her arm. Sugar's pregnant, he says. She doesn't look pregnant. I can practically see her uterus. So we need a bigger house like yesterday. Ooh, that's... Sugar doesn't talk in a southern accent. Her husband does. Sugar says. So we need a bigger house like yesterday, she says, looking up at the roof line. Is there an au pair suite? The accent is Swedish or Norwegian or otherwise Scandinavian. Let's go, Ethan says. Give us a tour. Sugar, where's my gum? She pulls out a pack of Nicorette and slips a piece into his mouth like she's feeding a baby pig. He bites her fingers in the dirtiest way I've ever seen. And I hope against hope they resist the urge to have sex in my front yard until they sign a contract for the house. Off we go. I'm sorry it's such a mess right now, I say. The house is neater than it's ever been, but I wanted to know that I have extremely high standards. Ethan wanders into the den. This could be the bar. Mm-hmm, Sugar says. She seems uninterested in the house tour. He peeks through the den window at the terrace. Put a studio out back. Ethan has a lot of ideas. Upstairs he takes one look at the guest room and sighs. Nice colorway. You're in the music business, I ask? Of course he's in the music business. Where in the merely mortal world are people who look like this? Sugar laughs, incredulous. You didn't recognize him? He's Ethan Hardy. You know, Tennessee Mud. Your love will make me quit my job. She digs around in her suitcase of a handbag and hands me a CD. There's Ethan, heroically lit from behind like Jesus, wearing a lot of leather with his beard trailing in the breeze. The album is titled Happy as Heck. I'm kind of knocked out by this couple. I think I'm a fan. You're looking for a place in town? I thought you country music stars like to have 400-acre farms out in Williamson County. Sugar cracks up at this. Yeah, you'd like that, right, honey? He grew up in Hickman County on a chicken farm. He thinks this is funny, too. You ever spent time on a real farm? Last place in the world you want to be is anywhere near a chicken. There's a reason people eat chickens. Sugar makes me show her the attic for the au pair that she will hire once the baby comes. Now, this is a dismal scene, she says. Ethan. It sounds like Eaton. Could we implant some windows or something up here? He's looking around the room. You're living up here, ain't you? He says, seeing a half-gnawed bagel on my bedside table, which is a large cardboard box with Kotex in large letters across the side. He looks at me sharply. Why are you selling this house anyway? I tell him about the situation in direct violation of Beverly D'Angelino's specific advice in the book I read from her, How to Sell Your House in 2 Weeks, about not sharing unsavory information about the current ownership of a house. There's something about Ethan. He seems kind under all his ink and leathery trappings. Sugar says, she didn't die in here, did she? No offense, I mean. She adds as she sees my crestfallen expression. Yeah, she pretty much did die in here, I think. This flashing thought sinks me like a brick tied to my ankle. Car accident, I say to her, suddenly regretting telling her this, wishing again that Jenna had just wandered off to Pulaski. Ethan looks at me, struck. My God, woman, you can't be living in here. You're going to break your heart all over again. Your pain's kicking off you like a halo of sorrow. I mean, I can feel it. I shrug, feeling my lips go all rubbery and trying not to cry. Why is it that the tiniest expression of sympathy can have the most potent effect? By the end of the tour, I can't tell whether Ethan is into this house or not. He's cagey about it. Okay, he says, climbing up into his truck. You're negotiable on the price, I know. I mean, that's a lot of coin for a place like this. Somebody's got to fix that kitchen. I shrug and talk up to him so I can be heard. Just let me know if you're interested. Are you working with an agent? Sugar snorts. Ethan's got no agent for nothing. Thieves, he calls them. I'll be in touch, he says. I got your digits. I'm weirdly sad that they're leaving. Hey, Ethan, what does love yard mean? Love hard, Ethan exclaims, twisting around to look at the window. I told you it's hard to read, Sugar says. That's my ethos. That's what drives the whole thing. You gotta love hard or you ain't loving at all. I don't know if there's time for more, another piece or
Got 11 minutes. So.
Oh my God. More, please. Settle in, people. Now we come to the James Joyce portion of the Jazz Odyssey. Yeah. One of the challenges Delia faces is trying to have a relationship with a guy. She's never had much luck with it. So soon after she arrives in Nashville, a guy comes to her door and her mother has sent him over. He's a real estate agent that she's hoping will sell the house for Delia. And Delia wants nothing to do with this guy because her mother's involved and she can't stand her mother. So despite the fact he's incredibly attractive, and she instantly realizes that she's got to really figure out some way to get in this guy's world. So she's torn with this dilemma of whether to let her mother actually help her or not. Anyway, she's wandering around Nashville. This is from a chapter called A Sighting. There are parts of Nashville that aren't awful. A few blocks here and there where the energy seems good, where you can find caffeine, a book, a beer. Hipsters love a sidewalk. I'm walking in one of the adorable parks, Hillsborough Village, when I come upon Henry Peake, who stands in front of Davis Cookware and Cutlery Shop. He's gazing upward, transfixed, making a supplication to a kitchen god. Hi, I say. He turns to look at me surprised, twitching almost. He pushes up his glasses. I'm instantly embarrassed, like I've been caught stalking him, which I would most certainly have not been. I would never literally stalk him. Look, he says, pointing to the wide window of the cookware shop. I see a stack of expensive cooking pots and a dusty braid of garlic. You cook, I say, unnerved, mulling my stunning fortune at seeing him. No, there, he says, pointing at a crack above the window. Shh, look. We stand there with the traffic of 21st Avenue rumbling behind us. It's a roar of sound, but I still try to keep quiet so as not to disturb whatever it is that Henry's looking at. A tiny beak pokes out of the crack, a narrow triangle. That, he whispers. The darting head follows, a beady eye, a body squirts out, a flutter of flapping feathers, and the bird is gone. Cracks maybe an inch wide, invisible to anyone walking by. Can you believe that, he says? Kills me. Wedged up there. First time I saw him, he was dragging a piece of straw 1/2 foot long. Urban homesteader. He looks down at me, then stalking me. Finally got a good look at him. Pink-headed. He heads toward the used bookstore next door, which is actually my destination as well. Loners like me love a bookstore. It's one of the places you can be in the company of others without actually being in their company. Henry holds the door as if he knew I was coming here. I'm hit with the comforting, dusty smell of old books, and I hope I can figure out some way to keep talking to him. My phone rings, tragically. Yesterday I told Susan I could take traveler calls again. Susan is her business partner, her travel agent partner. So I cannot fail to answer. It could be any client in the world calling from anywhere in the world. Henry looks like he's about to say something, but when he sees me dig for my phone, he scowls, then wanders down an aisle and turns the corner. I can see his elbow with its rolled up sleeve, white shirt, blue stripes. It's the window washing company announcing they're on the way. This would be great news in any other circumstance, because I realized only this morning that the windows were filthy, and Beverly D'Angelino lists clean windows as number 2 in her 5 fastest ways to make a house look better than it is. I have to go home immediately, but I feel like I'm abandoning Henry, which is stupid. I head toward the back of the store, where the blue-striped elbow has disappeared. He's hunkered down in the nature section, bird books on the floor around him, his back to me. I whisper, "Gotta run, window washers. Open house tomorrow." He doesn't even look up. I'm an idiot. There's a slim girl on the floor tucked beside him, a sylph, laughing as she pulls a book off the shelf. She's the nightmare scenario for anybody crushing on a guy. She has tiny feet, a musical laugh. All the way home, I think about that girl talking birds with Henry. Too young for him. He should be ashamed. He must be 35 years old. I can hardly stand it, the way she was laughing, the way she leaned toward him with that curtain of shiny brown hair. I've got no business mooning after a guy like this. So pointless, as usual. He's got a rich and rewarding life here in Nashville, selling his houses and tracking down the underpaid cute girls in local retail establishments. He was so disgusted. I can't erase the image of Henry's expression, shifting from open to shut as I answered that cell phone right in his face.
Another round of applause.